Welcome to this week's episode of the Projector Podcast. I'm Jeremy Glowacki, Editor-in-Chief of ProjectorCentral. Today, freelance writer and editor Brian Nadel joins us from Westchester, New York, to discuss his two most recent ProjectorCentral reviews, offering us the opportunity to compare and contrast seemingly similar projectors from two different brands. Today, we will discuss Brian's insights from testing and experiencing the business and education market-focused Sharp XP-M401H-W 1080p laser projector and InFocus's Nemesis 2 IN1028SL 1080p conference room projector. As always, it's such a mouthful saying these model names out loud, but here to help keep it all straight is our friend, Mr. Brian Nadel. Hey, thanks for joining us today, Brian. How's it looking?
It's a pleasure, Jeremy. Why don't we just call them Model A and Model T?
Okay, let's get back. And almost similarly, they come in one color, and that's white, right? So
any color you want, as long as it's white.
That's the word. Yes, it is. So this is our third time chatting, and I want to keep our tradition going as long as it's baseball season, and just talk briefly about our favorite teams. You're the Mets fan. I'm the Yankees fan, and they've squared off since the last time. It could be
another Subway Series.
Yeah. It could be. I mean, they're pretty much neck and neck there on records.
Yes.
How are you feeling about the Dodgers matchup this week?
Well, they beat them last night, so anything can happen.
Yeah, that massive loss on Saturday for the Yankees was pretty rough, but sometimes those games get away from you.
The Dodgers will stay in LA, and the Mets and the Yankees will stay in New York.
That would work. Very good. Well, let's get into projectors. That's why most people are here, and I would say probably everybody. But they may be coming for our baseball takes too. So
I hope not.
Yeah, exactly. So, as I mentioned, we had the unique opportunity to talk about two projectors because it's been a bit of time since we talked the last time, and you've been pretty prolific with your reviews. And I saw them, and I said they're so similar. I just think this would be a great opportunity to do kind of first this one, then that one, and then maybe kind of a side-by-side virtual thing. Not that you sat there and compared these on screen together, but let's see how they kind of line up at the end. So we're going to start with the most recent one, which is the Sharp. You get a pro-con list as we usually do at the top of your review, and you mentioned the pros being inexpensive classroom or conference room projector, no maintenance laser illumination, 5-year warranty, HDR mode for movies, and small, lightweight, easy install. And on the cons, you said it lacks a built-in Wi-Fi or wired LAN connection and has no legacy ports. So let's start with first impressions for you. For a commercial projector, it seems like a pretty nimble size, 6.5 pounds.
Yeah, particularly for something that puts out over 4,000 lumens of light. 2 years ago, that was pretty much an impossibility. The laser components and the light paths have just gotten incredibly efficient in the last few years. So you can get, a box that is, a few years ago would have been 2,000 lumens, 2,500 lumens. They go to 4,000 to 5,000 now.
Yeah. So, and as we were talking off air, there was a conversation of pricing here, and it being a pretty affordable product as well. That's changing with the dynamic nature of the tariff situation. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to say, but we maybe talk about what the list price was, what we are seeing, kind of just give people an idea what price range we're looking at.
This projector is new, and I think it was set up to sell for about $1,250, $1,270. We just did a quickie price check, and it's at about $1,450 now. So the tariffs, and I guess mostly the uncertainty about the tariffs, are starting to filter into this market. But it's still inexpensive because you will never have to buy a lamp for this projector. And typically that would have been $200, $250 every 2 years, every 3 years. So, maybe if you get 10 years out of it, you've almost paid for the projector in not paying for lamps.
And you're just again to sort of set the stage on this one, we're talking about a 0.65-inch DMD DLP
Yes.
from Texas Instruments.
With a laser phosphor light path and a color wheel.
Right. And at 1080p, not 4K emulation, but for educational and corporate uses, that generally would be pretty, kind of enough as far as resolution, right?
I mean, it's the standard in business conference rooms. In schools, wide XGA, SVGA is still, the resolution of choice, maybe not choice, but what they can afford. I mean, there are still $400 projectors out there for SVGA and wide XGA that they jump at because, they typically, a school district to fill their classrooms with new projectors will do a bond issue, and those are getting harder and harder to pass in most places.
Yeah, the things that are acceptable in a classroom situation, from my experience, it's been a minute since my kids were in elementary school where you typically would see these in application. I guess they're pretty much all through the different levels, but yeah, the standard is a lot lower in my eyes, having seen a lot of great products in home theater, especially. What's acceptable is
Right. And as I said before, it's the only place where you see lamp projectors anymore.
Yeah. So other ways, even though we're not obviously at that 400 level, we're in the 1400 or more with different changes in pricing. But the ways that they've looked at finding economy, ways to save some cost here, you've got the lens focus and zoom as a manual situation.
One of the big ways they saved money on both of these projectors is by using the equivalent of a notebook power supply rather than a power supply that's built into the projector. It saves in two ways, at least. One is it's a smaller, lighter thing. You don't have to worry about the AC power supply overheating within the projector, which is a big failure item for these things. Plus, it's cheaper. The downside for the Sharp projector, the XP-M401, is that power adapter heats up tremendously. It hit 130 degrees when I used it, and that's literally too hot to handle.
Yeah.
The other projector, the InFocus IN1028SL, it was closer to about 110 degrees, which is, that's reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something to be considered, actually. And a good thing that you do test in addition to the heat coming off the projector itself and the fan noise. Did you find that the projector was staying cool itself?
Yeah, the projector
well?
was cool. It's just where it was getting its DC power from was running really hot.
Right.
And I mean, and it's a symptom of the fact that they had undersized the AC adapter. I didn't check thoroughly, but the two adapters looked exactly the same. Same size, same manufacturer, I think the same output. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were the same unit that was used in both projectors, but it was maybe a little undersized for the Sharp one.
For the amount of lumens it's putting out and all that.
Yeah, for its power draw, yeah. And these were 19-volt power supplies, which sort of are the equivalent for high-performance notebooks.
Okay. So how about those settings as far as are those the lens capabilities and the zoom, the throw ratio, that type of thing? Take us through what you experienced there as far as what it was capable of, distance wise, size of the screen, and that type of thing.
Right. So these were both very similar projectors, as we were talking about. And there is one big difference between them for the setup. The Sharp projector has no vertical or horizontal shifting of the image. So basically, the only way to move the image around on screen is to move the projector right, left, up, down, that sort of thing. The InFocus projector has a vertical shift that moves it about, I think it's about 40% up or down. And that gives you a lot of flexibility in setting it up so that maybe if it's not convenient to put the mounting on the ceiling at the specific spot where it's perfect, you might be able to move it a few inches front or back. The image shifting is typical on a projector in the next class up, the small auditorium size projector, small venue, where you typically will get horizontal and vertical image shifting. And the reason why it's really important, I think, is that it allows you to move the image around on screen without losing any of its brightness. You know, if you move the projector a little bit sideways, you have to correct for the keystone, and that typically eats up brightness.
So display modes for again, let's stay on the Sharp for a little while longer before we switch over. You've got your high bright presentation, cinema and sport, which cinema and sport seem a little out of sorts for the application, but movie day at the classroom, that type of thing, I'm sure. I don't know, where would you use sport?
So the typical, as is typical for these projectors, the highest brightness mode is really only something you can use for like spreadsheets and tabular material. Incredibly green makes photos look just ghostly, eerie. Oddly, for this projector, the sport mode was the best balance of color. Flesh tones look good. A natural photograph of like trees would look reasonably good. Nothing even remotely close to a home theater projector, but for its uses and its price, pretty impressive. The oddity of the Sharp projector in this area is that its cinema mode only put out 1,300 lumens of light. So it's really meant to be in a darkened room. While the other modes were closer to 4,000 to 5,000 lumens, 3,000 to 4,000 lumens, you could leave the blinds up and the lights on. For cinema, you gotta make the room very dark.
But let's say if you were using the projector for, showing a educational film, movie, whatever, substitute teachers and they're running a movie.
Yes.
Your sport mode is going to be pretty vibrant, probably, right, for that.
It'll be okay, I think. And
Okay.
it's probably mid 3,000 lumen instead
Okay.
of 4,500, which was its peak. So not as much light, but a much better image quality.
Mm-hmm. And for some reason, there's 3D offered, but you buy the glasses separately. Why would you want 3D in a commercial projector like this?
So years ago, people put 3D on particularly DLP projectors because it was inexpensive. And you would have to get those alternating field glasses to wear for 3D. It's really, I think, only used these days for CAD image simulation, where you would project it onto a wall and you would have the glasses on and you would have maybe a walkthrough of the design of a new car or an airplane in a 3D mode. 3D was very big in educational videos, instructional videos for a while, and it just isn't anymore.
Mm-hmm. There's a contingent of our readership that just is so 3D focused on there. That sounds like a thing, but they troll our comment section with no 3D, not for me, you know? And it's like, okay, there's a huge fan base out there. It seems like it. Maybe it's three guys that are just doing it over and over again, but from the home theater side. But it's kind
So,
of
I mean,
interesting.
for a while there, it was like a really big deal, and there were applications like I remember a biology teaching one that literally you would be like on that movie Fantastic Voyage from the 60s, where you would be flying through the heart and other organs in the
Hmm.
body. And the demos were just absolutely beautiful. But I guess the glasses got in the way, and people just aren't really using it that much, except for your friends, the trolls.
Yeah, and then you go to the theme parks, they're still using it like Disney and that type of thing.
Yes,
So um I'm personally not a fan. I get a headache, so you know that's just not my thing. But
I miss the ones with the red and blue lenses.
that goes back a bit, yeah. Um, so you talk about connectivity in both of these reviews, and you say that the Sharp has the two HDMI inputs but no video output.
Yeah, yeah, and also it's digital only. There's no VGA or composite input. So really, this is for a fairly new office or a school that's been renovated. Um, a lot of schools still use analog video like VGA, composite S video, that sort of thing. So if you're in a school or a conference room setting that uses that, this is not the projector for you.
And there's no wired networking or Wi-Fi
Yeah,
connectivity.
yeah. That was
So
a
what
surprise to
so what
me.
you're doing basically here is you're connecting a laptop to the projector.
Yes, or a permanent video connection, through a control room so that, someone can decide who's connected,
Okay.
which is typically how like big conference rooms work.
It does have audio capability, single speaker for things that you would be listening to. Obviously, you need that in a classroom setting or even in a conference room. How did that performance hold up for you?
It was okay. Both of these projectors, it's really spoken word is what their aim is, whether it's dialogue in a instructional video or a news report or something like that. They really don't do music well. And to do that, you would need external speakers.
And just to kind of wrap up this first projector, 5-year warranty, you felt like that was a pretty
Yeah.
solid protection.
It's a really good thing because while the laser elements should last essentially forever, they should last 10 to 20 years. The rest of the projector, particularly one that heats up quickly, might not. And 5 years is a reasonable lifespan for this, although I would say in most cases it'll last twice as long as that. There's one more thing, and this was the only projector that I've seen in its class lately that had HDR built in. So, if you have HDR coded material, like for movies and things like that, it will show up brighter with more highlights, richer color. Um, it's not the aim of the projector, but it's a nice little extra.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Well, we can touch on other things as we compare at the end, but let's switch to the InFocus Nemesis 2 IN1028SL. This is a 1080p DLP laser projector as well, and you listed its pros as 5,000 plus lumens of brightness, 5-year warranty, legacy analog video input, and vertical lens shift. And as one and only con, you mentioned the lack of Wi-Fi. So obviously, we mentioned the similarities, differences a little bit already. You can definitely start seeing those in just these pro con lists. From a max brightness standpoint, this is 1,000 lumens brighter projector than the Sharp.
Yeah, almost
Did
a
you know?
thousand. And it is the same greenish yellow output at its top brightness. And ironically, while sport mode was the key to using the Sharp projector at its best, the gaming mode is the best looking one for the InFocus projector. The
Interesting.
most neutral color balance. Most of the projectors in this class used to have either an sRGB mode or Rec 709. That
Hmm.
was a fairly mild, fairly neutral color balance. For some reason, it's not being used much anymore.
I wonder if that's a naming convention that the pros not understand, but maybe the folks who are setting these up don't necessarily relate to, so they go with these more
Yeah,
general names.
some projectors have a natural setting, and quite often that's similar to sRGB. That is a defined color gamut that they have to come close to. Most will hit about 90-95% of it.
So you're pleased that there are analog capabilities from this one as well, as the other one did not have, which was fully digital. So this allows some of that older equipment connection in
Yeah,
some of these
yeah.
different
No,
settings.
if you're in a classroom or a business setting where it's VGA cabled from the projector in the ceiling to wherever you plug into, it would be a moderate hassle to tear that out and put in HDMI cables. Um, so this would be a better pick for retrofitting an older setup. Um, and it works just as well for at HD resolutions.
And you didn't, I didn't go back to look at your history of working with InFocus projectors in your reviews, but you mentioned that this projector is a member of the InFocus Nemesis 2 series, and you listed out 3 different projector models. And I would imagine you probably have had some experience with them, if not just like researching this review. But you said it takes a big step forward with its vertical lens shift knob, wired networking, and outstanding monitoring and control interface. So it's a step up for their family of projectors.
It is.
Um,
So there's a little bit of history here, and then I'll double back.
okay.
InFocus is now sort of is not its traditional company that we were used to dealing with, based in Oregon. They are now sort of a worldwide company with people in different places in the world doing different portions of the product development, the manufacturing, and things like that. So this is one of their first new projectors, and I think it hits the mark fairly well. The wired LAN and monitoring screens are absolutely essential, I think, in this market, and it's something that the Sharp projector lacks. So you can plug this into your school or business's wired LAN infrastructure and see everything that's going on in the projector through a computer browser window. You can't do that with the Sharp because it doesn't have that capability. Um, it doesn't have Wi-Fi, so you can't do easy collaboration with other people in the room. But this is sort of a big deal. The wired LAN is a really big help.
And your elimination engine, you were talking about the output being 25% above the competition, just
Yeah,
generally
it is
speaking.
one of the
So
most efficient light generators. Its lasers just do better than everyone else's. I asked them to tell me what the secret sauce was, but they would not divulge it. I just think it's a new generation of lasers.
okay.
They're at about $28 a year if it's on 8 hours a day, 200 days out of the year, which is a typical heavy load. The Sharp one would be almost double that at about $50 a year, um, just based on that efficiency, the same workload. So it's ironic. It costs more to operate, but it puts out a less bright image.
And we go through there's a 1.6 time zoom lens, and you've got the adjustability here. Can you mentioned both projectors, obviously kind of sweet spot, 8-foot, 10-foot lens. I mean screen. I'm sorry, but then this one you could go 25 feet as far as the image size, but then you're going to get washed out. But it's
Yeah,
got
and
that
typically
capability.
the rooms that these are in, the screen is maybe 8 feet, 10 feet diagonal. You
Yeah.
know, a 25-foot screen is enormous for a conference room. And, it's more of a small auditorium or for a church.
Yeah. And so there's also a short throw version for this projector you mentioned. So that's a popular option for a lot of different applications.
And that's a new trend that I really didn't expect to see. It is the same chassis, same illumination. The optics are different, but everything else is the same. So it is almost the equivalent of a swappable lens. You just have to decide before you buy it which version you want. And others like Epson are doing this as well with their products, where they will offer 2 or 3 different lenses. They can't be changed once you've bought it, but when you're deciding which one to get, you have more flexibility, more options.
Do you want to talk about connectivity? We've got similar, besides the networking, obviously we mentioned with the LAN, you have a pair of HDMI inputs.
Right, and the VGA on this one.
And the VGA.
Which I think is, it's nice to have that backward compatibility.
Right. And the speaker's similar as far as the audio.
It literally for spoken word is it's really major use. I mean, you could play Lilo and Stitch for school in the cafeteria on a rainy day when the kids can't go out and play, but it really doesn't do particularly well.
Yeah. And you're similar with the fan, no noise issues to speak of.
No, these were both fairly quiet projectors, and this one, the InFocus one, the AC adapter stayed cool.
Interesting, yeah. Just a better match for that one.
Yeah,
for some reason.
No, I mean, and I think that's the price you pay for that extra 800 or 1,000 lumens. Is it just needs that much more electricity?
Anything else on the InFocus that we haven't covered that would be interesting as a comparison here?
Just that the LAN connection actually helps out a lot with those monitoring pages. You can see what source is being used, what the brightness level is, what display mode. And when I say I mean like the IT administrator.
Yeah.
Or the AV guy can literally go through in a building each and every projector and see what their settings are. Mm-hmm. And in most cases, make sure they're all turned off at 8 o'clock at night or 7 at night when everyone goes home.
Right. Well, as a kind of final wrap up here, maybe we could just do a little bit more highlights of the compare and contrast of these two projectors. It seems like, along the way we've kind of pointed those out. So just maybe a summary of how they compare, not necessarily say, buy this one, don't buy that one, because that's not a nice thing to do. But what the application needs would be, for instance, a school that has a lot of legacy connections.
Yeah, no, I mean, yes, that would be the InFocus one. If you're stuck in the VGA world, this is the one to get. It's also a much easier projector to set up with that vertical shift knob. Although, and this is a quirk of mine, there's no lock for the knob, so it might drift over time if there's vibrations, but I'm going to assume that it doesn't. It's also a more efficient projector if that's something that's of interest to you. The Sharp projector, not as bright, not as efficient. Its AC adapter heats up, but its image was fairly good, was surprisingly good, and it has HDR if you want to make it into a cinema machine, a movie machine. I would buy both of them, Jeremy.
They're both good quality projectors, and they're just some little tweaks here and there depending on your needs and your applications, but good to be aware of. What was interesting coming out of both of these reviews and your conversation in them about the inability to cast to them led you to an idea for an article. So maybe we can talk about what's up next for you in terms of helping us find solutions for that that situation. And
so in both of these cases, you're assuming that the room is filled with people with computers, whether they're tablets or notebooks, sometimes just phones. And they should have the ability, the right to take over the projector, to send their image, whether it's, a video of how the factory is working, or a project that you did for school, or, at church. It could even be, a inspirational thought. And typically the way you do this is through casting your screen to the projector with a moderator's approval. Neither of these projectors can do that because they don't have Wi-Fi in them. Many of the Epson Powerlight projectors do, as well as software to make it easy. So what I did was I looked at 4 different retrofitting kits for adding Wi-Fi and screencasting to a projector. The manufacturers were ViewSonic, Unitech, Google, and they all did moderately well at it with different quirks. Like the Google one does full 4K projections, while none of the other ones did. Some of them are easier to set up than others. Some of them require a little dongle that you plug into your computer. Some of them only make that dongle with USB rather than HDMI. So there's an enormous variety for casting.
And just so I understand, when you're dealing with these 2 projectors we discussed today, that plugs into one of the HDMI ports,
Yes, absolutely.
And then it receives.
So it'll be 2 plugs. One will go into the HDMI, and the other will go to either the USB port on the projector if it puts out enough electricity, or to an AC adapter if it doesn't. And some of these actually use so much electricity that you can't use the USB port on the projector. It's just not enough current.
Right.
That was a big disappointment on my part.
Yeah, because suddenly you've got a lot of things kind of hanging off of this projector.
Yeah. And if you have the external AC adapter hanging there also, there's a ton of wires.
Sure. Well, thank you for doing that extra story for us. I look forward to editing. I haven't gotten to it yet, but that'll be helpful for those who see these limitations on these 2 projectors, but they can make them work if that's what their application requires, and they want to save on the cost of these.
Right. I mean, there's no excuse for it not being built into every commercial projector. The costs are minimal.
So not to get in on a negative note, but both a big miss on these projectors, obviously, for that.
They have a fear of Wi-Fi, and I don't really understand it. When I say they, I mean like the marketing managers, the product managers.
So you think it's a security issue?
People see it as such, but it really isn't, because the security blocks on it are more than enough.
Okay.
And my other peeve, which we can get to in a future one, is each projector in this class should also have Bluetooth for sending audio to speakers. It simplifies the wiring tremendously.
Well, one last question for you. We've talked about our editorial calendar and what's up next and everything, but do you have anything in hand right now that you're working on next as your review?
So I've been looking at the next class up, an Epson Powerlight projector, the L890E, which does 8,000 plus lumens, and it is suitable for a small to mid-sized auditorium
Mm-hmm.
at a very aggressive price.
Well, I'm headed to Infocom next week, and I will be seeing their commercial offerings there again. I was actually at their headquarters about a month ago in California, and that was a great opportunity to see both their home entertainment and commercial sides. Did a video of that, and obviously, always a lot of great product there. So look forward
Right.
to
And
your
they
hands
had,
on.
there's some crossover between their commercial and their home theater products. Like their short throw home theater product is based on a commercial projector,
Mm-hmm.
or vice
Yeah,
versa. I don't know which was first.
yeah, yeah. I think it was commercial first. Saw a great blended full room short throw demonstration at their headquarters where they basically mapped the entire
Mm-hmm.
circumference of the room and all from short throw lenses. It was really cool.
Were they on the floor or mounted on the ceiling?
Ceiling.
Interesting.
Yeah. So typically, like in those art exhibits, you see they're down
Mm-hmm.
on the floor, right, and kind of tucked away. Yeah, these
Sometimes
were down with.
inside little boxes.
Yeah, I mean they had that little periscope style, lens kind of coming down,
Yep, the
which
one that
that's
goes over the top of the projector. Those can cost $20,000 just for the lens.
okay. Something to consider for sure,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Budget standpoint.
Don't drop it.
Yeah, totally. Well, Brian, thank you so much again for your time today. Really appreciate the extra effort from your reviews and the insights that you gave us here today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for calling.
Brian Nadel is a freelance writer and editor who specializes in technology reporting and reviewing. You can read his full review of the Sharp XP-M401H-W and the InFocus Nemesis 2 IN1028SL at ProjectorCentral. And the direct links to both of those stories are available in our show notes. And that wraps up today's Projector podcast from Projector Central. Please subscribe to this podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Also, check out all the latest Projector product news and reviews at projectorcentral.com, where you can also subscribe to receive links to our latest articles on the day that they are posted. For Brian Nadel, I'm Jeremy Glowacki. Thanks for listening.